Married or not, you should read this. When you see someone for the first time, what attracts you to the person is their physical appearance. Over time, as two people decide to be together and get married, the way they look doesn't really matter, as they understand what makes them fond of their other half is their partner's inner beauty and how they make them feel. Once we realise this is what we need to feel complete, we actually understand the true meaning of love. However, there comes a time in people's lives when they come across someone new whose beauty enchants them and makes them forget about their partner who was by their side for bad and for worse. No matter if you're married or not, you should take a look at this. When I got home that night, as my wife served me dinner, I grabbed her hand and said, "I have something to tell you." She sat down and ate quietly. I watched her and saw the pain in her eyes. Suddenly, I did not know how to open my mouth, but I had to tell her what I was thinking. I want a divorce. She did not seem upset by my words and asked me softly, "Why? You're not a man?" That night we did not talk, and she cried. She wanted to know what was happening to me. It was something with our marriage, but I could not answer what exactly. It happened that she had lost my heart, and I had another woman named Joan. I no longer loved my wife, but I pitied her. With a great sense of guilt, I wrote a divorce agreement, and with this agreement, she got the house, the car, and 30% of our business. She looked at the agreement and threw it away. She spent 10 years of her life with me, and now we were like strangers. I pitied her. For all the lost time, the energy was not the same, but it could not change. I loved Joan. Suddenly she started screaming. The idea of divorce was now clearer to me. The next day I came home and I found myself writing at the table. I did not eat dinner and went to sleep. I was very tired, having spent the day with Juna. When I woke up, my wife was still writing at the table. I did not mind. I turned around and continued sleeping. In the morning, my wife introduced me to divorce conditions. She did not want anything from me, but needed a month's notice before the divorce. She asked me for a month. We would have to live as if nothing had happened. Her reason was simple. Our son had a whole month of tests, and she did not want to bother him with our broken marriage. I agreed, but she had another request, to agree upon me carrying her to our room like the day we got married. I thought she was going crazy, but that this alone was accepted. I walked the 10 meters with my wife in my arms. She closed her eyes and said quietly, "Do not tell our son about the divorce." Then I went to work. I drove alone to work. The second day we were both more relaxed. She leaned against my chest. I could feel the fragrance of her blouse. I realised that I'd not looked at it carefully. I realised she was no longer so young, had some wrinkles, some grey hairs. That was notable, a damage of our marriage. For a moment I thought, and I asked, what was it I did? The fourth day I felt some affection was returning between us. This was the woman who gave me 10 years of her life. In the fifth and sixth day, it continued to. I said nothing about Joan. Every other day it was easier to carry my wife, and the month was running. I thought I was getting used to her weight. One morning she was looking for what to wear. She'd tried many dresses on, but all of them were too big. It was then that I realised she was very thin, and that was the reason that I did not feel her weight load. Suddenly, I realised that I had provoked much pain and bitterness. Without realising it, she touched my hair. Our son entered the room and said, "Dad, it's time that you take Mum to the door." For my son, seeing his father day after day, carrying his mother to the door, that had become an essential part of his life. My wife hugged him. I covered my face. I was afraid. I changed my thinking about divorce. And holding my wife in my arms to the door, it felt like the first day of our marriage. She stroked my neck, softly and naturally. I held her strong, just like our wedding night. I hugged her and did not move, but she was so thin, and that made me sad. I drove to the office. I left the car without closing the door. I climbed the stairs. Joan opened the door and I said, "Excuse me, sorry, I do not want to divorce my wife." Joan looked at me and asked me if I had a fever. I said, "My wife and I love each other. It was that we were doing everything as a routine and it was boring. We didn't value the details of our life. But since I started carrying her to the room..." Joan began to mourn. She slapped me and closed the door. Going down the stairs, I got into the car and went to the florist. I bought my wife flowers. The girl in the florist asked me what to write on the card. I told her to put, "I will carry you every morning until death parts us." I arrived at my house with flowers in my hands and a smile and ran up the stairs. When I went, I found my dead wife. My wife was battling cancer, and I was so busy with Joan, so I did not realise. My wife knew she was dying, and that's why she asked for a month's notice before the divorce, so that our son would not have bad memories of the divorce. Try to keep your marriage happy. Share this. You may be saving a marriage. All the stories of failure are equal. They give up when they are about to enter success. We do not know what we have until we lose it. Share this with your friends and family.